Hi, I'm Wendy Bird. I am the president of EMDRIA,
I'm Marisol Solarte Erlacher, and I'm the president-elect of EMDRIA.
and we are here today to present the EMDRIA 2022 Outstanding Contribution and Service to EMDRIA Award to Mark Nickerson. Mark is an LICSW and a psychotherapist, a clinical consultant, and trainer who has practiced in the Amherst, Massachusetts area for 35 years. He is an EMDR Institute trainer, an EMDRIA approved consultant. And over the years, Mark has served in so many ways. He has been the president of this organization, and he has served on the board, and let's just say more than one term. He's an EMDRIA approved trainer, an EMDRIA credit provider, and multi-year conference presenter. And he currently serves as the chair of the clinical practice working group on the EMDR Council of Scholars. He has been a regional coordinator for Mass Regional Network for a number of years. And there are some formal and informal positions that Mark has held. Those of us in leadership know that he is someone that will raise his hand for many informal acts of service, where he may not receive a title or official acknowledgement. What we all know is that Mark brings his heart and his head to the tasks, and he represents the best of servant leadership. His work continues to advance EMDRIA and the EMDR community. And the EMDRIA board itself is proud to recognize his work and name him recipient of the 2022 Outstanding Contribution and Service to EMDRIA Award. Congratulations, Mark. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. One of the things when I thought about presenting this award was when I got on the board, you were my mentor. And that was really a lovely experience. So I'm so excited to be here to present this award to you today. It feels really special.
It's also wonderful to see how you've advanced in your own leadership in a short period of time. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. So I think it's just obvious to anyone who's been around you that you have a heart built towards service. And I'm wondering if you can just share some of the influences that have been in your life that made that kind of commitment part and parcel for who you are.
Well, thank you. I remember when I got involved in my first EMDR training, I was in the kind of the early phase of the middle of my career and felt pretty good at what I was doing as a therapist, but really felt isolated. And so when I had the chance to be trained in EMDR and then to take off with it, I just was hungry for community around it. And that very quickly led to connections with people locally. And I was very fortunate to be in an area here in Western Mass with a lot of experienced and generous EMDR people. So that kind of got me to fall in love, if you will, with EMDR. My own father was a Methodist minister, and so I do kind of a version of his work as a therapist, but never had the chance to really work with groups of people. So I think I was influenced in some way by that notion of service that he modeled for me.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Mark, it seems as though your desire and thirst for more community when you started your EMDR practice was somewhat of the impetus for your beginning of service. So as you think about your early days and in terms of your service with EMDR to EMDR through EMDRIA and all the other vehicles, what do you remember the most?
Well, I remember that it just happened so naturally. I enjoyed learning with others. As I say, there was a lot of good spirit in our area. We had a lot of fun. We had regional meetings. We put together a regional skit on how the brain works that is still legendary in this area. And we traveled in a van to Philadelphia to go to a regional conference. And so we were learning among each other, but we also just were enjoying each other's company in the process. So that was a big part of it. We grew together. And then it went from the local to going to EMDRIA conferences. And then all of a sudden, seeing that much bigger of a world of enthusiastic EMDR people. So it's that combination of feeling like there's something really meaningful that was learning and that was leading to good service to others, and at the same time enjoyable along the way.
After all those years and experiences, I think it's obvious that taking on leadership and service roles has both its challenges as well as its successes. We're curious in your work with EMDRIA over the years, what have you seen as some of the big challenges the organization has had to face?
Well, um, it's first I'll just say that moving into greater and greater leadership was mostly in response to being invited. So that was nice. I remember when I was invited to be on the board, it just kind of took me by surprise. Somebody approached me. I said, "How do they even know who I am?" And they said, I've talked to a couple people. They think you might be a good member of the board. Would you consider it?" So I said yes. And same thing with other leadership opportunities. So I think being invited um, gave me a sense that something was needed, something was wanted, and so that's made most challenges manageable because I sort of figure, well, I don't have to be here. I was wanted, and so I'll just do the best I can. Um, I think, there's a learning curve to being able to responsibly participate. I remember when I first came onto the board, I was like most new board members, very quiet in the first board meeting, just trying to understand how things worked. But there was no pressure either. So I do remember being kind of blown away with the level of accountability that the board had to its process, the really thoroughly thought through procedures, and this notion, this philosophy that the board speaks in one voice, so that it wasn't about any one person dominating things. It was really a collective process. So I think that also took the edge off of particular pressure. So I kind of don't think of I mostly think of accomplishments more than problems when I think about the time I've spent. And there have been a number of satisfying things that have happened along the way as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I think we'd love to hear some of these successes. What are you most proud of?
Yeah. Um, well, I remember early in my term, 2 terms on the board, we were setting strategic plan, and we had all sorts of fancy language, but then we had a board meeting in which what we really came out of it is that we just wanted EMDR to be a household name. And so, yes, there's lots of sophisticated ways of thinking about the impact of the therapy, but just that notion that it would be recognized by the average person was one of our goals, and I think we've accomplished that. We see it pop up in movies and books, and you know, famous people talk about using it, and new clients come in now having heard about it, new trainees, and I just think that tilting point of going from the young kid on the block to being recognized as a major player is maybe the biggest satisfaction I've seen in my time.
Mhm.
Um, I think embracing diversity of both our members and of the people that get served in EMDR makes me very proud. I feel, on one hand, the culture's way behind in terms of addressing this, but on the other hand, I feel proud that EMDRIA was thinking about this and talking about this years ago, before it became more seen as an absolute mandate. And so I'm proud of what has happened within the EMDRIA board and within the EMDRIA organization. So I think of that as a nice thing. And I think the other thing that stands out for me is early in my term on the board, we had a goal of trying to grow 10% a year.
Mm.
That was about 10 years ago. And I was looking at the numbers recently, and we have grown by 300% in the last 10 years. So clearly, while that felt like a stretch then, we've done much better. And so that's very satisfying as well.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so nice to hear you talk about your perspective with the Wendy and I on the other side of it. I think that's really, really helpful. When you face challenges, what has motivated you to keep going? And I think coupled with that, what do you see as the qualities of leadership and service that matter in today's environment where there's so much noise, division, and self-interest?
Well, I love the fact that you both are keep using the term service, because I think that's to me where the satisfaction is, the humility is, that sort of thing. It's not that I haven't done a lot of personal growth and professional growth within the process, but it's felt like it's been for a good cause. And so I think in terms of different levels. I think ultimately of the clients that we're serving, providing the best care and treatment that we can. I've had an opportunity to see this at every level, the new trainee, consultant, and then the people that are more involved in advocating for EMDR and developing board policy and so forth. So it has that sense of layered teamwork, and that allows the focus to be kind of external. Um, and just thinking within any one training, if you train one therapist and they see 20 people in the week, think how and those 20 people have lives that affect others. You can kind of see that rippling effect. And so when at any one moment something feels like a struggle, it's not hard to switch to the fact that so many good things are flowing well, that any one particular struggle is small, relatively speaking.
Yeah, that kind of goes into kind of what you would say to those considering service in the organization in the future moving forward. What do they need to know? What um, should they consider in looking to advance EMDR through service with EMDRIA?
Well, I remember when I was invited to be on the board, um, I didn't. Once I knew that I was welcome, it didn't take much for me to say yes. But I do remember talking to people early on before about whether I should join the board. What would that be like? And they definitely talked about there's work you have to do and keep on track of it. And some of the policy making is dry and that sort of thing. But the bottom line was everybody said you won't regret it, that you will be glad you did it. And so that meant a lot, and that turned out to be true. And those long hours, the kind of nitty-gritty work, I realized first of all that it's necessary to run an organization, but it also felt satisfying to be a part of it. And you both know this, but there's a sense of legacy within the EMDRIA board. And I know people that preceded me and the two of you that have continued on afterwards. And there is that sense of connection. And that's not to me meant to say that board is exclusive, because I think that's experienced by other groups in EMDRIA, people that have worked on conferences and other special interest groups. But there's that sense we're doing our part at this point, and that the organization will evolve and others will step in. So it's been nice to let go and see other leadership as well.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mark, for all that you've done. I mean, again, anytime we know that you'll step up and be called on, I can tell it's obviously been a passion. And so we're so happy that you are in this community and so happy to be presenting this award. I don't think there's anyone that is more deserving. So,
Oh, thank you.
yes,
So you're going to present it to me from there, from
I'm
where
going to
you are?
present it and it's going to just magically show up where you are.
No, this cannot be.
I know.
How could that happen?
This wonderful magic world. Here it is, the 2022 Outstanding Contribution and Service to EMDRIA Award. And it's coming to you now, Mark.
Oh my Lord, wait a second. This is somehow
Oh,
magic.
there it is.
How did you do that? I just reached out my hand and there it was. That kind of has been the story of this whole thing.
Just
One
a
thing
miracle.
appears. Well, thank you. I will treasure this symbolically. It means a lot to me. This is not the kind of thing that one works for, but when it comes, it's delighted. So I'm very appreciative and really honored. And when I think back 15 years, this kind of was nowhere near my radar of a reward that I might be getting. So thank you for this.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mark.